Okay, here I am, and we are looking at your image. And as you can see here, I can see a difference between the dark and light, so it's not really on black. But the first thing I did is I actually cut out this image right here, and it left me with that. Now, one of the things I also did is I cut off those because, as you can see, they don't reflect what's happening on this picture. But we can also add those in at another time. So here we are with this. And the next thing I did is I took out the cast shadow. She said, oops, forgot, got to take that away. All right, because we can make the cast shadow in a different way. And as you can see, we can see the feet down in here now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take away this loincloth, and I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so I took out the loincloth, and you see it already is reading a little bit better. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge this chain. All right, basically what I did is I did a copy paste, and I used the same chain that's up there for down here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File. So I don't know what I did, but what I want is actually the puppet warp. So I'm going to really zoom in here. And if you see, what it does is it allows us to, I wonder if I can, to move certain sections of our image. Okay. No. And what I'm doing is kind of like just putting thumbtacks down so that I can move this. And I hit the shift key so I can select 2 points and then move it. And see, you can actually stretch it out. I can move that up a little bit. Move this one in a little bit. Move that in a little bit. And when you hit return, you can actually move your image so that the chain is more in keeping with what's going on around it. So I'm going to edit, transform, and I'm going to actually distort it so that I can pull this in a little bit. See, now that I've got the basic shape going on, and maybe I can move this up more. See. Okay. All right. So here we have it. Now, this isn't beautiful and it's not perfect, but it gives us a general idea. Okay, And maybe you even want to make some sort of clip or buckle. But let's zoom out. This is what we have now. And you can see that I could make this longer or whatever. Now let's work on the body. Okay, I found a figure. I just went on the internet and I Googled to try and find a figure that would work for this. And what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to make it transparent. Okay, make it a little less transparent. And then I'm going to try and line it up with our figure. Now I'm going to need to transform it a little bit. So I'm going to go to Edit, Transform. I'm going to work a little bit with Distort. So let's see if I pull. That works out pretty well. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here. I'm going to put a mask on. Mask doesn't erase anything permanently. It just covers up stuff. So I'm on that layer. And so I'm just going to edit right along here. But I think you can see how the shoulders are a little bit straighter. All right. Then, not sure what I'm going to do there, but I'm going to take that off. All right. And already we see that this has a little bit better of an appearance. Okay, so we have that a little bit better. Now, remember what I said about the pectoral muscles. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to get my lasso tool. I'm going to lasso the pectorals. Boop, boop, boop. All right, and then I'm copying and pasting, so I get that. Then I'm going to turn on this again, and you can see where those pectorals are supposed to be. And we're just going to lower that down. Closer to where they should be. All right, I'm going to turn off that. Then I'm going to get my paintbrush. Now, I'm also going to eliminate this. Okay, and I'm going to put that back, this back on, stay in there. All right, so his belly button is probably going to be right there. I need to make sure. There we go. I found an image on the internet that kind of would give me an indication of where the shading would be. So I'm changing the opacity, and then I'm going to go up to transform, and I'm going to distort. I'm going to start right here. And I'm going to try and capture right. Now I'm going to go to my select and mask. And this is the point where I can use my paintbrushes. I'm trying to see there we go. All right. So I can see the edges, right? And then I need to get down this part of the arm. All right, then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to feather it. I'm going to give it a pretty heavy feather. All right, and then I hit OK. So that's going to be the selection. Then I'm going to add my layer. And see, my selection is now on here. Okay? And I'm going to add a mask to that. Okay? Now, I'm going to come back to this one and I'm going to click on the figure. And then I'm going to go back up here to my paint. All right. And then I'm going to get my dark shadow that I want. And paint. And I'm going to change this to 25%. Okay. All right. So now I can't see it, but when I start to shade this in, it's going to pick up everywhere that I have that shading in there. Okay, you see it coming in? And even down the leg. See, I can paint wherever I want, and it will only paint where I have the shading things going on. Okay. Now, if I want to make it darker, I go over a second time. All right. Now, if I turn off my marching ants, there's my shading. There may be some parts on that I want to fix. So I'm going to look here. All right, I've got my paintbrush. So maybe I can darken some of these and darken some of those. Okay. So that you can see where those shadows are headed. Now, one of the things that's problematic with this for me are those yellow lines. So there. Okay, so that kind of darkens those up a little bit. So we've still got our primaries. You know, I also might take my smudge tool and, you know, smudge along the edge here. Okay, can help your shading a little bit. Okay, but let's go back to what I wanted to do. Now, I'm going to put all these guys together. For his cast shadow. You copy that, move it to the bottom. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Exposure. I'm going to crank that exposure up till he's black. Then I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to make a pretty good blur on it, like right around 48 usually is nice. Okay, now the next thing I know I don't need is, I really don't need this part up here, so I'm going to take that off. Okay, then I'm going to crank this one on, but I've still got that selected. Then I'm going to Edit, Transform, Distort. And I'm going to pull the shadow down, pulling it down. All right. You could literally put this wherever you want it to be. If you want it to show a little bit more, you can always, you know, expose it a little bit more like this. Always try to make some key points line up. Alrighty. Then once you hit OK, then you're going to put in another blank layer, and you're going to paint it with black. And you're just simply going to put a little edge right underneath the knee. Okay? Little edge underneath the knee. Same over here, little edge. See, I kind of blurred it out into here. I could also blur this out into here. And Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Not as much of a blur on that one. Very, very sort of soft. Usually about 10 is plenty. And again, once you get it, you can always, you can always kind of adjust it a little bit if you need to. And then you're going to duplicate that. And you're going to put it on top of everything. This time you're going to reduce the opacity so that we can see where one covers up the other. Then I'm going to get this. It's soft. And soften that edge. And there you go. And that's how you would put in your cast shadow. Now, if you wanted to maybe create an environment in here, first thing you would do is you would select, then you could go to your gradient again, and I'm going to move this down. And create your environment. And then up here, all I would do is select inverse. It selects the top part. I'm going to go here. I'm going to choose that. And I'm going to choose a much darker color. And there you've got your environment. If you wanted, oops, you wanted it let me try this way. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so there you have your environment, your primary color schemes, and that'll do it. Now, obviously, there's some fixes I could put on here. I just didn't. Okay, you know me, I can't leave well enough alone, so I darkened up some stuff in here. It's not perfect, but it gives you a general idea of how you can go about doing this. Talk to you later.